With centuries of round watches, this is really the complete opposite of that, of having geometrical shapes, and something as beautiful like this is still admired and as classic today as it's ever been.
Joe.
Dimitri.
Great to see you.
Pleasure, my friend.
Thanks you for sitting down and chatting with me. I want to learn more about the Jaeger-LeCoultre Reverso.
I would love to talk about it. I'm extremely passionate about this watch and its origin of design mainly, and its history.
Yeah, I'd love to learn. It's a beautiful watch. Just the shape of it, the style of it.
Well, let's talk about that. The shape that you see today, it's almost a century in its making, came from the Art Deco movement. And these are design elements that are still classic today, and in some cases even in the historic registry. I think of landmarks like the Empire State Building for its geometry. I think of the Chrysler Building for its symmetry and ornate motifs. All of those things are relevant in this watch because they were born during the same time. Even something that people don't even talk about much, but the famous Golden Gate Bridge and its towers are very similar in its classic design elements as what you're finding here. For example, if I were to show you that if you look at the case itself here, let me take it off so you can see.
Yes, please.
With the top being the same as the bottom, is very reminiscent of the tower. The tower also showcases ribbing and geometric lines that you're seeing on this watch. They're vertical that way, where they're horizontal here. And also the roundness, which is that streamlined roundness is very, very indicative of Art Deco styling, and this has all of those things, just like that structure. If you take a look, you can really see those up close. Yeah, unchanged in almost a century.
It's a phenomenal watch. And it's amazing. This is 90 plus years in the making.
Yeah, if you think of all the styles, trends, fashions that have happened in the 20th century, this has remained virtually unchanged over that period of time, which speaks of its classic nature as a design icon.
So I was curious, what was the genesis, if you would, of this watch? What was the purpose of it? How it came about?
Yeah, that's a great story. I will show you that there was a gentleman, his name was César Ditray, and he had relations with Jaeger-LeCoultre because he was a watch distributor, Swiss-born, but he was on business in India. And he was asked by a lot of his British friends who were playing in that polo match to attend, and it was there where some of the British officers who had played had cracked crystals, their watches were beat up, and his friends had asked him, could you ever see a way in which you could wear a watch playing sports that wouldn't affect, the vulnerable part of the case itself, which is obviously the crystal?
That's amazing, because this is really a designed out of necessity.
Correct. And so he was actually just thinking, how could this be? So it was there that he had the inspiration and the idea for the project. So he had actually hired a French engineer and architect named René Alfred Chauveau, again, with the relationships they had with the manufacturer on the idea. And they had early drawings that were a little bit more square, not as Art Deco as you see it today. And they basically elongated the case, streamlined it. Instead of using numerals, they're using batons, as you can see here, making it, simpler, more elegant. But the beauty of it was the pivoting and swiveling case. And from that design, this was born, this action, which
beautiful.
The polo players had their first sports watches, golfers, tennis players, that could protect the watch. But interestingly enough, having a second side of the watch created many more things. I'd love to show you what that's like.
Yes, please.
What ended up being born is the artistry and unique nature of having your own individual watch. This is one example of classic, beautiful hand engraving. It was really a way of expressing your own unique tastes, and didn't look like any other watch. And honestly, this became more interesting to look at than even the timekeeping. So you would just classically look at the time here, and then turn it over to enjoy the artwork of the watch. Isn't that amazing? There's no other watch that can do this.
Yeah, this is truly one of a kind. I mean, really, the artwork is one of a kind for one person, and very individualized that way, retaining those Art Deco lines, but also having that personalization in the back. Yeah, that's Quite a watch.
Yeah, it was born like a mini canvas of emotion, artistry. Enamelers got involved, you know, sculptors, all types of things, family crests, all born on the back side of a watch was now a front side, a watch that has two faces.
And besides telling time, it's a very meaningful side, isn't it?
Exactly. This is what makes this watch so unique. And in fact, I'll show you that some of those design codes that I was mentioning here, you've got, I had mentioned the Chrysler building, you know, in which they had ornate motifs. You see that in the guilloche rectangle of this watch right here. You can take a look closer.
Indeed.
And you also see a second hand that, instead of going in a round circle, is a rectangle within a rectangle. Again, that cubism and symmetry that you're used to seeing, like in an Empire State Building, those Art Deco design, iconic features.
It's quite a design. In fact, it's very geometric. I mean, 90-degree corners. It cannot be more Art Deco. Yes, on your wrist, really.
Yes, and rounded symmetry. Yeah, and that's the beautiful thing, is because back in the 30s, you know, wristwatches were fairly a new thing, and it was almost rebellious to liberate your watch out of your pocket and have the audacity to wear it on your wrist. And, you know, it was centuries of round watches. This is really the complete opposite of that, of having geometrical shapes, and something as beautiful like this is still admired and as classic today as it's ever been.
It's a beautiful watch.
Yeah,
indeed.
And I'll show you that in addition to that, here you see, you know, some different sizes, but also on here, what was born throughout the decades is other ways of interpreting that second side of the watch. And we're talking about engraving, personalization, you know, artistry, but the manufacturer also came up with ways to have another time, another face. And here, now you have a complete different watch, two watches in one, serving double duty, which is amazing. Again, never been done before by anyone else. And this was born throughout just the evolution of the Reverso itself.
Yeah, it becomes a really more practical watch. Now you can travel with this watch. You can go anywhere with this watch. And
that brings more and more people into the Reverso itself for those reasons. And even as far as I can show you in this one, where in a larger canvas and in gold, here you can do even much more things. You've got a busier dial here with many more features, outsized date, day-night indication, offset second, and then reversed over. Here, you have it where you've got a GMT gauge, plus or minus, day-night on this case, luminous hands, 8-day power reserve off to the side here. I mean, just as an example, they've done many, many master complicated watches, but from something born pure all the way to something complicated, but still retains its classicism and its Art Deco roots.
I must say I'm thoroughly impressed. I have never seen a watch like this, in this shape, in this size, packed with so much information. This is the ultimate companion, really. If you have one watch, this is it.
Yeah,
it's gorgeous.
It says a lot about the individual who wears them, for sure.
So I was going to ask you, and I was very curious about the evolution of watchmaking, but specifically, and this relates to the Reverso, the Jaeger-LeCoultre Reverso.
Yes.
What happened when the Swiss industry was almost taken over by the Quartz Revolution, where so many watches or watchmakers ceased to exist, yet the Reverso didn't?
Yeah, it's a great question. The quartz crisis affected all of Switzerland and almost put the mechanical watchmaking on its heels. But the Reverso was also not spared from that challenge. So when we are getting out of the 70s into the early 80s, you know, the Reverso was thought to be something that was, had a noble past, but maybe not so relevant in the present. But interestingly enough, a gentleman by the name of Giorgio Corvo, he was the lone sales representative for Jaeger-LeCoultre in Italy, interestingly called the manufacturer and was asking about the Reverso during a time where no one was thinking of the Reverso. In fact, he wanted to order all that they had, and they said they had put away in a warehouse, they counted around 200 cases, no movements whatsoever, and they tried to talk him out of it, saying that nobody wants this type of thing. He said he'll take everyone. And what he knew that the manufacturer didn't know is that from an Italian standpoint back then, it wasn't about timekeeping anymore. It was about the statement it makes, about the purity of its design, you know, and his clients wanted to wear Art Deco. And it was evident during that time between wardrobe, between furniture, was having a revival, if you will, of the Art Deco movement. They convinced Jaeger to come up with working movements to put them in, and lo and behold, the Reverso was alive and beautiful again. And they all sold within a month. And it started to have them think about this is something that they should be doing again. And from there, the revival was on, and if you will, a renaissance of a classic icon like the Reverso.
So tell me, Joe, what does the Jaeger-LeCoultre Reverso mean to you?
Well, to me, a Reverso, as any quality watch, should be an ambassador of your aesthetics, your tastes, your values, but also about mechanical artistry and craftsmanship. And to me, this Reverso says all of those things.
Complete timepiece.
Complete. Pleasure.
Thank you, Joe.
All right, till the next time.
Till next time.